She thought she was chosen. The trips, the gifts, the promises of marriage. What she didn't know was that every time he said he was broke to his wife, he was spending money on her. This is the story of a woman who became the other woman without ever knowing. If you're still watching, subscribe for more real stories like this. He told her his name on a Tuesday, not in a dramatic way, not with fireworks, just casually, like a man with nothing to hide. They met in a place where people pretended they weren't lonely, a place where conversations were light, laughter was forced, and everyone carried their private emptiness like a handbag they never put down. He was calm, polite, intentional, the kind of man who looked you in the eye when you spoke. She noticed that first. Not his watch, not his shoes, his attention. He didn't scroll his phone while she talked, didn't interrupt, didn't rush. When she asked what he did for work, he answered simply. When she asked where he lived, he answered clearly. When she asked, half joking, half serious, "Are you married?" he smiled. No, not defensive, not offended. No. That was the moment her guard lowered. Because women learn early. Married men hesitate. Married men dodge. Married men over-explain. This man didn't. And that's how it started. He called the next day. Then the day after. Then every morning. Good morning messages that came early before sunrise. Long voice notes at night, when the world was quiet enough to confess things. He told her about his dreams, his frustrations, his plans. He said he wanted peace. Said he was tired of stress. Said he wanted a woman who would understand him. She understood. She always did. Within weeks, the gifts started. Nothing cheap. Nothing random. Things that said, "I see you." Money when she mentioned being short on rent, without her asking. A surprise phone upgrade. Clothes he picked himself. "You deserve good things," he said. And she believed him. He took her on trips. Not rushed weekend escapes. Real trips. Hotels with mirrors everywhere. Rooms that smelled like money and silence. He held her hand in public. Posted food pictures at the same table. Never hit her. When she teased him, "You're spoiling me too much," he laughed. "I'm investing in my future." That word stayed with her. Future. He promised marriage slowly. Not dramatically. In fragments. "Any woman who marries me will never suffer. I'm not like other men. I want to do things the right way." He talked about kids. About building together. About timing. Always timing. She never pushed. Because he was already giving her everything. Or so it seemed. Somewhere else. In a different house. With walls that had heard too much. His wife was asking questions. Not accusations. Questions. "Can you send money for food? The kids' school called again. We need to fix the generator." And his answers were always the same. "Not now. Things are tight. Next week." He said it calmly. Repeatedly. He said it while sitting on hotel beds in another city. He said it after buying gifts with her name on them. He said it while promising a future to someone who thought she was chosen. At home, his wife started shrinking her needs. Buying less. Asking less. Apologizing for asking. She didn't know there was another woman. She only knew her husband had become distant. And distance hurts more than insults. The woman. The one who thought she was loved. Noticed small things too. Missed calls that came only at certain hours. Trips that couldn't be extended. Moments where he went quiet when his phone rang. She asked once, "Is everything okay?" He sighed. "Family stress. You know how it is." She nodded. Because she trusted him. Because liars don't always look like villains. Sometimes they look like men who say all the right things. The truth didn't arrive loudly. Never does. Came through whispers. Through a name mentioned too carefully. Through a coincidence that refused to stay silent. Picture. Child's face. A comment that didn't make sense. And suddenly, everything she believed began to shake. Not crack. Because when the lie is big enough, your mind fights to protect it. He wouldn't. There must be an explanation. I would have known. But the signs kept coming. And somewhere at the same time, his wife was learning too. Learning that the money didn't disappear. It was redirected. Learning that the stress wasn't work. It was deception. Learning that her marriage hadn't been failing quietly. It had been abandoned loudly. Just not in her presence. 2 women. Man. One life he was tired of. One fantasy he was feeding. And neither woman had the full truth. The first confirmation didn't come from him. Never does. It came from a stranger's mouth, spoken casually, without knowing it would collapse an entire life. She was standing in line somewhere ordinary, one of those places where nothing important is supposed to happen, when she heard his name. Not just the name. Full name. Followed by, "His wife is so quiet. You know she has 2 kids, right?" Her body reacted before her mind did. A heat rushed through her chest. Her ears rang. Her hands went cold. She smiled politely because shock teaches you manners. "Sorry, who?" The woman repeated the name. Laughed lightly. "You know him. Married guy. Very private. Doesn't bring his wife around much. Married. 2 kids. Private." Every word landed like a slap. She went home and sat on the edge of her bed without removing her shoes. For a long time. That night she didn't confront him. She did something worse. Check. Not aggressively. Not desperately. Carefully. She scrolled with shaking fingers. Searched names. Looked at tags, comments, dates. A woman's page appeared. A woman with tired eyes. A woman who didn't smile for the camera, but for her children. A woman whose caption spoke of patience, faith, endurance. And there he was. In pieces. A shoulder in one picture. A shadow in another. A hand she recognized instantly. Her stomach turned. 'Cause suddenly everything made sense. The money. The secrecy. The family stress. The way he never stayed late. The way he always had an excuse. She wasn't special. She was scheduled. She called him. He didn't answer. She called again. He picked up on the 3rd ring. "Hey baby." His voice. Warm. Familiar. It hurt more than if he had shouted. "Are you married?" Silence. Not confusion. Not shock. Silence. That was the loudest sound she had ever heard. "Who told you that?" he asked finally. Not no. Not why would you think that. Who told you? Her chest tightened. "How many children do you have?" she asked. Another pause. Then the lie came, slow and careful. "It's complicated." Complicated. A word men use when the truth would destroy the version of themselves they want to keep. At the same time, in another house, his wife was holding a phone too. Her hands weren't shaking. They were steady. Because grief settles differently when it has been waiting. She had found receipts. Hotel bookings. Transfers. Names that weren't hers. She remembered the nights he said he was working late. The mornings he said he was broke. The days she skipped meals so the children could eat. And suddenly she understood. Her husband hadn't been failing. He had been choosing. The other woman cried alone. Not dramatic sobs. Quiet tears that soaked into pillows and left stains no one would see. She replayed everything. Every promise. Every trip. Every gift. He had said, "I don't want a woman who will stress me." He had said, "You're different." He had said, "Wait for me." And she had waited. For a man who already had a home. When she confronted him again, he was angry. That surprised her. "How could you embarrass me like this?" He snapped. "Embarrass. Not I'm sorry. Not I lied. Embarrass. You knew I was under pressure," he continued. "You knew I had responsibilities." She laughed then. Sharp, broken laugh. "I asked you if you were married. You shouldn't have pushed," he said. That's when she realized something terrifying. He didn't see what he did as wrong. He saw it as necessary. Meanwhile, his wife didn't scream. She didn't fight. She didn't post. She did something quieter. She watched. She watched him lie without blinking. She watched him defend himself with anger. She watched him turn her pain into inconvenience. And something inside her went cold. Not bitter. Cold. Two women now knew the truth. But they didn't know each other. And he still believed he could control the story. Because men like him always do. Until the stories meet. He didn't disappear after the truth came out. That would have been too clean. Instead, he adjusted. He became quieter with her. More cautious. Less generous. But still affectionate enough to keep her unstable. Because men like him don't cut ties immediately. They reduce them. He still called, just not every morning. Still sent money, just not freely. Still said, "I love you." But faster now, like something memorized. And every time she tried to pull away, he reminded her of what they had shared. "You know me. You know my heart. I didn't plan for things to get like this." As if marriages happened accidentally. She started asking questions she had never asked before. "Why didn't you tell me? When were you going to? Was anything real?" He hated that question most. "Don't do this," he said once. "You're being emotional." That word again. Emotional. A word used to silence women when logic threatens a man's comfort. At home, his wife stopped asking for money. That scared him. No reminders. No complaints. No messages. Just silence. The kind of silence that watches. He noticed she no longer asked where he was going. No longer waited for him to eat. No longer adjusted her schedule around his moods. She became polite. And politeness in marriage is dangerous. The woman he lied to, the one who never knew she was the other, began to unravel quietly. She stopped posting pictures. Stopped answering friends' calls. Stopped trusting her own judgment. Because when you discover a lie that big, you don't just question the liar. You question yourself. How did I miss it? How did I believe him? What else am I wrong about? She replayed every conversation, searching for clues like a crime scene investigator who realized too late that the suspect had been sleeping beside her. One evening, curiosity defeated fear. She clicked the wife's profile again. This time she scrolled deeper. Past birthdays. Past holidays. Past years. And that's when she saw it. A picture from a time he had been with her. Same date. Same week. Same city. Two lives. Running in parallel. Her chest tightened so hard she thought she might pass out. Because the realization wasn't just that he lied. It was that he managed time. Carefully. Precisely. Like a man maintaining two different versions of himself. The wife meanwhile found messages. Not loving messages. Transactional ones. Transfers. Promises. Excuses. She recognized the tone immediately. It was the tone he used on her. When he wanted patience without accountability. Only now it was being used on another woman. And something shifted. Not rage. Clarity. The first contact between the two women didn't happen dramatically. No screaming. No insults. Just a message. "Hello. I think we need to talk." The other woman stared at her phone for a long time before replying. Because deep down she had been waiting for this. They spoke cautiously at first. Trip. Words he used often. It became impossible to ignore the pattern. Same phrases. Same promises. Same future plans. Even the same jokes. That hurt the most. Because jokes feel personal. "He told me he was broke," the wife said at one point. The other woman swallowed. "He bought me a bag that week." Silence. Heavy. Permanent. He didn't know yet that they were talking. He was still telling each woman a different story. Telling his wife the other woman meant nothing. Telling the other woman the marriage was already over. Standing in the middle, confident. Because he believed women stayed divided. He believed shame would keep them quiet. He believed wrong. He found out the same way most liars do. Not through confrontation. Not through shouting. Through a change in temperature. The calls stopped landing the way they used to. The messages felt shorter. The questions sharper. Both women, separately, had gone quiet. And silence is terrifying to men who live on control. The first crack came at home. His wife stopped cooking his favorite meals, stopped checking his clothes, stopped reminding him of birthdays and obligations. She moved through the house like a guest who already knew she was leaving. One evening he asked casually, "Is everything okay?" She looked at him, really looked at him. "Yes," she said. "I finally understand." That sentence followed him out of the room. The second crack came from the woman he never meant to hurt. Or so he told himself. She didn't cry anymore. She didn't beg. She didn't ask for explanations. She simply said, "I spoke to your wife." The room went still. "What did you do?" he snapped. Interesting how quickly fear turns into anger. "We talked," she replied. "That's all." "That's all," he laughed nervously. "You know women exaggerate." She smiled then. Not because it was funny, but because it was over. "She didn't exaggerate," she said quietly. "She filled in the gaps you left." He tried damage control. Apologies that arrived too late. Excuses repackaged as vulnerability. Promises recycled again. "I was confused. I didn't want to lose either of you. I never meant for it to go this far." But something had shifted. Because both women now shared a truth. And truth removes illusion. His wife didn't fight him. That shocked everyone. No dramatic exit. No public scandal. She gathered documents. Saved evidence. Prepared herself. When she finally spoke, it was calm. "I gave you years," she said. "I won't give you my sanity." She didn't ask him to choose. She chose herself. The other woman walked away differently. Her pain wasn't legal. It wasn't structured. It lived in questions. She mourned a future that never existed. A man who never fully existed. She blamed herself until she didn't. Because she remembered something important. She asked the right question. And he lied. That truth freed her. He lost control slowly. Friends noticed his bitterness. His irritation. The way his stories never matched anymore. People don't leave liars immediately. They drift. And drift hurts more than rejection. Months later, the two women met once. Not as victims. As witnesses. They didn't hug. Didn't cry. They just sat. "He never planned to choose," the wife said. The other woman nodded. "He planned to manage." And that was the final truth. He still walks around today. Still talks, still smiles, still tells stories. But something follows him now. A reputation he can't explain away. Pattern others recognize sooner. And two women who survived him. Different scars. Same lesson. 'Cause sometimes, the most dangerous lies aren't told loudly. They're whispered softly. To people who trusted you. Deception hurts everyone. Even the one who lies. The lie didn't just break one woman's heart. It broke a marriage, destabilized children, and destroyed trust on all sides. No one walked away untouched. You can't control lies forever. Eventually, truth connects the dots, and the damage multiplies. Kindly subscribe, like, share, and comment for more interesting stories.